Hello everybody and welcome back to the West Ham Network. You've had your time to compute that crap result, and I'm here to talk to you about the post-match presser that Graham Potter gave to West Ham after being defeated to newly promoted Sunderland on the opening day of the Premier League season, as West Ham did get beat 3-0, of course. And I thought, like I have said all along, I thought we responded reasonably well in the first half. To a fantastic atmosphere at the Stadium of Light, creating a couple of decent openings from a few of the players. But in the second half, Sunderland absolutely caught West Ham on the break and killed us off in the game. And, you know, after an encouraging pre-season campaign during which we went unbeaten, in fact, we won 4 of our 5 games, Graham Potter came out and acknowledged that there were very few positives to take from the game. And he really kind of highlighted the fact that the players didn't do the basics right against a side that was absolutely monumentally backed by the crowd, because that was an electric atmosphere in the stadium. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the presser, and we can kind of dissect exactly what we think Potter was saying. So some of the reactions he came out with from the press conference was, the result is obviously bad for us, and the second half was really disappointing. In the first half, I thought we were good. I thought we did lots well in terms of quieting the crowd down and creating some opportunities. We could have scored, I thought, but nevertheless, we felt okay. We started a bit slow in the second half, and from out of nowhere, a goal goes in and it becomes difficult. It was a game where probably the first goal, especially here where the environment was going to be challenging for us, but we tried to push. But in trying to push, we opened ourselves up. The second goal is a poor one. A mistake leads to a cheap set piece. And then we didn't do the basics well enough in the second phase. We haven't done the basics well enough. It's as simple as that, and we have to improve on that. Now, I appreciate that, right? Understand that. But let's be real here. Let's not take away. And he goes into how he doesn't mean to offend what he says about Sunderland. But this starts really from the fact that Sunderland nullify West Ham's one and only outlet, and our outlet is down each wing. The minute Sunderland nullify our threat, and we relied on one threat and one threat only through that game, was when we were going to struggle moving forward. And that's exactly what happened. So as much as he's saying we didn't do the basics well, with all due respect, Graham Potter, you didn't do your basics well. That's where the land lies for this game, from team selection, from formation, for team talk in the halfway going into the second half. Things needed to change, and you did not address those issues. He went on and he added that their first goal didn't come from any fantastic play from their perspective, and I don't say that with any disrespect. It was just a ball in the box that we have to do better with. Whether we thought subconsciously it was a comfortable one, I'm not sure, but that's not good for us at all. In these environments, you're never comfortable, you're never safe, and we didn't do enough at the start of the second half. Even though it was a stop-start, we didn't do enough. There wasn't too much to like about that second half from our perspective. Well, you can see that again, because we got absolutely torn to shreds, because every time that they came forward, you felt like there was a threat, and you felt like West Ham were hitting the panic stations. And that's where my issue lies. Again, it's fine again that you're saying that we didn't do anything and the balls were in the box, but at the end of the day, football was created. West Ham try and built some of our best moments from set pieces. We were known as the set piece kings, and if you put balls into the box, you can't deal with the most simple of basics of set pieces, then something's not right. And when you look at our defence, on paper, you would think that should be able to deal with this, but in actual fact, we had no capabilities of dealing with the balls coming into the box. And this is coming from a newly promoted side that handed 7 debuts to their club yesterday. A lot of players that have not got a lot of Premier League experience. Pinging that ball into the box, knowing exactly where West Ham are going to falter. Why? Because they came at West Ham and they were willing to go at West Ham. And again, West Ham set up defensively, set up with the mindset. Even though we pinged the ball around in the first half, we set up with the mindset that if Sunderland come for us, we've got enough players there to cope. And we were proven so fucking wrong, weren't we? Next, he was speaking about, I think that sometimes the game doesn't always restart after half-time with the same tempo or flow. There might be a few substitutions or injuries, but at the same time, like I said, the goals haven't come from much. Then, once you're 1-0 down, it becomes challenging. We responded well in pre-season to those sorts of situations, so we have to learn from today. If you don't do the basics right at any level, you're in trouble, and I think we did. I don't think we did enough today. Well, you can say that again, but again, you're talking about the basics. He goes on and talks a lot about the basics, and it's clear as mustard we didn't do the basics right. But again, it falls upon you, Graham Potter, because you didn't do your basics right. You didn't make the correct team selections from the start. The team was slow in the pace, slow in the uptake from the off. Good at holding on to the ball, yeah. Did we bring in any form of creativity? No. Did we give the ball to the creative players? No. Why? Because we don't have a lot of creative players on the park. And again, there lies some of your issues. Again, Mr. Graham Potter. The last thing he did say was, of course, we have to respond now. We have to do the basics better for sure. We have to learn this painful lesson, because if you don't, you can talk about how well you play or about how attacking football or whatever, but ultimately it doesn't matter. If you don't do the basics well, then it's hard to win games. So we have to really improve that, get back to rush game and start working again. And you can see the common theme of basics. He talks about basics, and basics again lies on you, Graham Potter, with your tactics in the game. And I get more frustrated the more I read these interviews with him. But again, let's even rewind slightly away from the game and look at the basics of transfer dealings and the basics of bringing players into the squad and the basics of replacing players when you know you have to replace players, and the basics of looking at your squad and the basics of selecting your squad and selecting formations and doing your tactics and the basics of all of that. That was all wrong, and it has been wrong because we've not brought in enough recruits. And how do we know that? Because we look at our substitutes and we've seen who came on to try and make a difference. Who came on trying to make a difference? Thomas Souček, Callum Wilson and Andy Irving, and it doesn't add up, doesn't make sense, because in pre-season we played Freddie Potts. He had a lot of regular game time. What did he do in this game? He hardly played. Why? I don't know. What are we going to do? Who knows? I don't understand. I'm as frustrated as you are, but to use the word basics well, it's very obvious we didn't do the basics well, but equally you didn't do the basics well, Graham Potter. So you need to take the lesson from today and turn things around quickly, and that could be from starting in the transfer window. And if we are going to sell players and get rid of players, and we're going to go through this merry-go-round, get rid of them fucking as soon as possible, sign players as soon as possible, get them in, reintegrate them into this squad, bring them in and move forward as a club, because we've got game after game after game. It's going to come, and we could find ourselves adrift from the pack again for another season consecutively in the row, and I can't be bothered with it. I just cannot be bothered with it. Anyway, that brings an end to the Graham Potter post-match reaction. Listen, a common theme when it comes to Graham Potter and his reaction to these games, and he does kind of say rinse and repeat, and join me later on as I talk to you about the rinse and repeat attitude. I'm not a fan of it. It needs to change, and we need to change that, and I don't know how we need to change. I know how we need to change from the top to the bottom, but it doesn't ever going to happen from the top, so we need to change from the bottom to the top, and I don't know how that happens either. So but either way, basics, that's the word I'm going to take from you from the Graham Potter post-match press conference. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on what he said. Did he really give us anything that we didn't know, apart from repeating himself? Who knows?